Hello, friends, and welcome into another weekly update from our team here at NC Family. As always, joined by Jerry and John. I'm Mitch, and guess what, John? We've got a lot to get to. A lot to get to for this week ending July the 3rd.
Yes.
Happy birthday, America.
Amen.
Jerry, there's a budget.
There is.
After one person said 366 days, Jerry, there's a budget. And John?
Yes, sir.
It's only 634
pages
long,
yes.
Or short, depending on your definition.
And we have green behind us
for
the budget.
The budget. A few things in the budget, actually a lot of things that we noticed in the budget that we think you'll care about. Some appropriations given to some of our friends. John, $6 million for pregnancy centers, the Fellowship of Pregnancy Centers across the state of North Carolina. $3 million, a little over $3 million for the Human Coalition, which is a wonderful organization across the country, but they have a presence here in North Carolina. They have pregnancy centers, and they are very, very good at targeting women who are abortion-minded. A great thing there. $3 million in the budget dedicated to responsible fatherhood. Let's get to a few other provisions that are found in the budget. John, the current tax on sports gambling is at 18%.
Right.
The budget, however, this current budget raises it to
23%.
23%. So
taxing sports gambling bookies at a higher rate, which is a good thing. Certainly will generate more revenue for the state. We prefer that sports gambling just completely go away.
Yes.
But the fact that that's probably not going to happen, deriving more tax and making it less attractive for people to gamble is certainly a positive thing.
If you haven't watched our videos, shame on you. First of all, go back and watch them. One of the things that we've talked about a lot recently are predictive markets, and there was speculation about whether predictive markets would be in the budget or whether there'd be standalone legislation. Jerry, predictive markets are in the budget. Probably should not have bet on that, on the predictive markets. Jerry, there's now a tax on these predictive markets.
It is, and I think we discussed this a little bit a while back when our Governor Stein, said, if you're working in state government and you have non-public information, you can't use that to make these kind of bets. It's just sad to hear how gambling is spreading literally into
anything and everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
And so, I know part of the discussion during the debate on the budget is, why is this in here? This is big policy. It's got a smaller tax on it and it's recognizing another form of gambling. It's very troubling. And of course, it's interesting because, and I don't get too much in the dynamics, but I know because we interact with people who work for the gambling industry, some of the people who are already in the industry are going, wait a minute, this isn't fair. We're now all of a sudden competing against another form of gambling. There's a lower tax on it. It's just sad that our state has stepped into this arena, and now it just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah. And even provisions that tax it still legitimize it and legalize it.
Right.
As opposed to banning it and prohibiting it. And that's very, very troubling. And this is an emerging form of gambling that more and more people are learning about. We've got a number of significant platforms that provide predictive market gambling, and it's just a growing. It includes sports gambling, but you can pretty much bet on anything, any event.
Right.
And so it's we're going to be hearing more and more about this. The facts that the General Assembly did tax it in the budget. They acknowledge that it exists,
Yes.
But we would strongly recommend there are other remedies and better ways to deal with it.
Again, a common theme that I think you'll hear through this video today is we prefer, and I think you would prefer, that it does not exist at all, but it does, and so the state has chosen to tax it. Of course, to your point, Jerry, while sports gambling is moving to 23% and these predictive markets are at 6%, some would request, and maybe a stronger word, require parity there. That may end up being the case eventually.
One extra final note on that. In the debate, one of the members pointed out, not only is this troubling, but there's no age limit.
Right.
And you're going, wait a minute. Anyway, so they've acknowledged it. There's obviously a lot more work. I'd like to believe maybe there's going to be a technical corrections bill that will say, wait a minute, we forgot to put a provision in here about if we are going to legalize something like this, put an age limit.
Yes,
Well,
at the very
So
least.
watch out in your own family if all of a sudden, you realize a child can go online and do this type of gambling with no restrictions online.
And it's fascinating to see how an age limit works. If you remember, just a few years ago, the state passed a law that put an age restriction on pornography websites, and then many of those pornography websites just shuttered their doors and said, we're not doing business in North Carolina. I saw a map yesterday. There are tons of states now that have done this, and Pornhub specifically is just backing out of states. That would be a wonderful step, I think, to restrict and maybe even eliminate access altogether for some of these predictive markets. One more provision that's in the budget before we get to a few others that is directly involved in gambling, income tax deductions for gambling losses. That's a lot to say, John. What is that?
Well, basically, it would allow certain people who amassed significant gambling losses to itemize, if they itemize their taxes, they can itemize those and take a tax deduction for gambling losses. The practical reality is this is not a good thing in our opinion, but it's going to apply to very few people because fewer and fewer people itemize because of the standard deduction level, and very few people gamble enough probably to amass the kind of losses that would qualify them for this tax deduction. But still, it is another effort by folks within the gambling industry to make gambling more attractive and less hurtful to people who lose. And we all know the house is going to win. People
time.
Ultimately are going to lose money over time. And so, it's unfortunate that this provision was included in the budget from our perspective.
Yeah. And I know we're pointing out things that for us are problematic. In a $34 billion plus budget,
Yes.
there are a lot of good things that have happened.
We're going to get to a couple of
Yes.
those here in just
We
a
are.
second.
But it is. It's just, we did want to share with you the things that we're
Yeah,
concerned
sure.
and troubled about.
Jerry, speaking of taxes, there is a modification to the schedule on personal income tax, and trying to reduce the personal income tax for people like you and your family to make sure that you're not paying so much to the state. That's in the budget as well. So that's encouraging. Another great thing that's in the budget is release time education. Most people think of the budget, if you're doing your budget at home, it's numbers. It's a lot of numbers. There's policy in the state budget. John?
That's why it's 634 pages
Yeah.
long.
There's a portion in the state budget to put into law now, released time education, which is a very encouraging thing. Our friends at LifeWise Academy, along with others, going into schools, giving students during instructional time the ability to learn from the Bible, a very encouraging thing found in the budget. There's new restrictions on vaping products. Here are a few other things. Average raise for teachers would be around 8%. State employees average raise at about 12%. And then a large portion of money given for hurricane relief, yes, for Helene, but also for eastern North Carolina. So those are some very encouraging things found in the budget. Any final words, gentlemen, on the budget?
Well, as Jerry mentioned, I think it's worth saying again, $34.4 billion state budget. I mean, that's a lot of money. This is a big budget. There's a lot in there. Again, a lot of good stuff. We did mention some things that we have concerns about, which we certainly want to make folks aware of as well. But this has been a long time coming. The General Assembly has been, what some people would say, a year delayed in actually passing a budget. So we've been operating off of a prior year budget for an entire year plus. But this is a significant step forward. The chambers, where the state Senate and state House, both led by Republicans, were able to come together and finally find common ground. They did a lot of work to put this together. Kudos to them for doing so. And yeah, it's continuing to, I think, with the tax reductions and the spending plans, responsible conservative spending plans moving the state continually in a positive direction.
They say the darkest hour is right before the dawn. If you would have told us a week or so ago that we were going to be talking about a budget on this week's weekly update, I don't know that we would have said that was going to happen. So that's great news. Jerry, any final words on the budget?
No, again, this is a difficult process, and I know it's, again, sitting back, why does it take this long? Thankfully, let's focus on the good news.
Yeah.
They have agreed, they've come together, and when it's that big, it's like somebody mentioned in debate yesterday. I don't know if you heard the analogy. They said it was like fast food. They said there's a lot of good in here, and so it's like when I'm trying to decide if I'm going to eat, do I go ahead and eat fast food because I know it'll give me some nutrition, but it's also got some things in it that aren't so good for me. I thought, well, that was kind of a good word picture.
There is nutritional value in those McDonald's French fries, believe it or not.
I'm not sure that was the best final word, but it was kind of a neat word picture where they voted for the budget,
And
even though they had
it was bipartisan. There were several Democrats, along with many Republicans, that voted for the budget.
Well, and this is a key thing that you mentioned, Mitch, because based on the margins in both the state Senate and the state House, there is clearly a veto-proof
There you go.
majority in both chambers to approve the budget. So, that may give Governor Josh Stein pause to veto the budget because there were actually many members of the Democratic caucus in both the Senate and the House who supported it.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see the process once the bill makes it to the governor's desk, what he's going to do with it. And he's got the option to veto it, to sign it into law, or to let it become law without him taking action on it. And so, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. But the votes exist in the legislature to enact this into law, and that's what we anticipate is going to happen.
Absolutely. Let's get to a few other pieces of legislation and a couple other big wins that we saw this week, specifically in Washington, D.C. at the Supreme Court. HB 328, if you remember, about a year ago, we mentioned this bill. This is one of those vehicle bills that we talked to you about last week where one body takes a bill, they put their own language in it. In this case, they appointed conferees. We mentioned last week that they had appointed conferees. They have now come up with a pretty comprehensive list of substances, easy for some to say, that would be added to new schedules, as well as some restrictions for those substances, specifically xylazine, synthetic kratom, and then several THC or hemp products, Delta 7, Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, that would be restricted for people or for young people, vulnerable people under the age of 21. Of course, John, our line for many years has been, if it's harmful for kids, guess what? It's also harmful for adults.
But right now, the state of the law in North Carolina is that these products are widely available.
Yes.
There's no age restriction, and North Carolina needs, at the very least, an age restriction on these products, hemp-derived consumable products containing THC and other very harmful compounds and substances. So, we're hopeful that the legislature ultimately will enact legislation at the very least to put age limits on the purchase and possession of these. But our strong recommendation to the General Assembly consistently has been we need to just ban these substances outright.
Absolutely.
And so we'll continue to be working on these well into the future, I'm sure.
Absolutely. As of the recording of this is being recorded at Thursday at about noon. We're still not quite sure where some of that is going to go, but rest assured there will be more update videos for you to watch so that you can get the information on these items. Another one that we mentioned last week, conferees were appointed for the ABC Omnibus Bill. I think they're kind of working on
an education bill?
something like that. Sometimes, well, never mind. I was about to make a joke there. Not going to make it.
Alcoholic beverage control.
Thank you. And
Omnibus
believe it or not, there were some gambling provisions in an ABC bill. I think it's because of the enforcement mechanism there. That's still being worked out behind closed doors. We'll let you know more about that as we know it.
And this is the bill that, along in the process, that was amended to include a huge expansion of Las Vegas-style casino nights for nonprofit organizations as fundraising events, but as we told legislators, this would allow practically an unlimited number of these casino nights to take place. And it's not just nonprofit organizations that could hold them. And so we're still working on this, and it's going to be interesting to see what this conference committee does if they come together and put together a conference report kind of ironing out differences between the House and Senate versions of this bill.
Jerry, big win at the Supreme Court this week on women's sports. It was Little v. Hecox and BPJ versus the state of West Virginia. I think I'm getting those two correctly. Basically challenging the notion that biological males, and I feel just kind of crazy even adding the qualifier there of biological, boys could not compete in girls' sports. Huge win, a 6-3 victory at the highest court of the land, telling girls that their opportunity and their right to compete in an environment without male athletes is affirmed. Right. Jerry, what do we need to know about that?
Well, again, I think the court recognized in their decision a lot of things, but one of the basic things is when this law was passed about how should male and female sports and various things work, there was a clear understanding about what the words male and female meant. And so I think the court stood firmly on that ground. I know the basic concepts that we hear a lot are privacy and safety. I know North Carolina has the story of a high school volleyball player who has lifelong injuries because they were competing against somebody much bigger, stronger, and the force of volleyball. That's just one example. The privacy aspect is a big one because we're talking about locker rooms, showers. I mean, it's so thankfully for the pretty much half the states, including North Carolina, who've passed legislation saying, yes, we need to protect women in sports. The U.S. Supreme Court has affirmed that concept, said, yes, this is a constitutional application of our laws.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, as we round third to end this weekly update video, we just all want to say happy birthday, America. 250-year anniversary of our country. I'm going to ask you, I put you on the spot, what is your favorite 4th of July food? You get just a second.
All of it.
All of it. The
I would have to agree. I would have to agree.
I figured you'd say Eastern North Carolina barbecue or something like that. Yeah. Well, it's more than the food. It's the opportunity for us to celebrate the God-given rights that we have and the best country on the face of the planet ever in America. And so happy birthday, America. Thank you so much for all of your support to make this truly the land of the free and the home of the brave. And thank you for your partnership and you affecting change through our organization here at NC Family. So again, I can't say it enough. Thank you for what you do to keep our work at the forefront, not just at the legislature, but across the state of North Carolina and in Washington, D.C. at the Supreme Court. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching this weekly update video. One more time, happy birthday, America. If you haven't watched any soccer, go Team USA in the round of 16 coming up.
And to learn more about the celebration, our video series is an excellent resource to learn more.
Link
Very
that
cool.
under the
Yeah,
video.
we'll link that down there. We hold these truths, or the truths we hold, video series that we've put together here at NC Family.
Excellent
You can
resource.
watch that, and you can find it, believe it or not, at ncfamily.org. So,
final extra note, I'm sorry.
Let's go.
Is thank you all for being part of living out these founding principles that, and I know you were sharing that earlier.
Absolutely.
Because it's all of us working together for God's glory.
That's right. Very good. Well, we're getting a phone call, so we're going to have to go. Thank you for watching this week's weekly update video. God bless all of you, and have a happy 4th Independence Day.